15.6 to 1.2, that suggests that there's been, almost a 20-fold escalation in the bond market. All good things come to an end, including that one. Gold is an asset that's made for times when people don't trust each other. Gold is not a promise to pay, which the US dollar is or the Australian dollar is. Gold is payment. It's an asset that isn't simultaneously somebody else's liability. It's a medium of exchange that's simultaneously a store of value. And it's an asset that does particularly well, as I said before, when people are concerned about the purchasing power of their other savings instruments. Other savings instruments, particularly the sovereigns, be it Australian or US, are uncharitably referred to by my friend Jim Grant as return-free risk. That is, the yield guarantees that you'll lose money. Yeah. And it also assumes that there's no credit quality with the issuer, the Australian government or the US government. But I would suggest a creditor that has debts that they acknowledge that they can't repay is an issuer that does in fact have credit risk, that the lenders, that is to say the savers, you and I, haven't woken up to yet. As a credit analyst, when I look at the US dollar, I think, why would anybody in their right mind lend that issuer money? Now, the answer always comes back because you are their chattel. If they need more, they'll simply extract it out of you. But at some point in time, the goose quits laying the golden egg. And even the fact that the citizens aren't citizen, but rather chattel, as Weimar Germany found out, that party, Kerry, comes to a halt. And by the way, I'm not forecasting any of these dire outcomes. I actually just believe we're going to have, in the current parlance, a reset. And around that reset, around that turbulence, I personally would rather have gold in my portfolio than not. Perversely, Kerry, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I hope when I shed my mortal coil, whenever that is, I look back and look at the gold which I purchased as insurance as something that cost me premium, as opposed to shield me from a very unpleasant event. But I think I'm right at the same time that I fear I'm wrong.
You've said in the past that you've looked at people's portfolios when they're looking at gold stocks, for example, and you say it worries you when they go all in. So you're not suggesting that people sell their house and their children and go all in gold. You're just saying it's, as you said a moment ago, it's an insurance policy. We hope that it doesn't get to that. But
it's a cheap insurance policy. You don't have to overinsure. When the set of circumstances happens that makes gold prices go up, they go up a lot.
Right.
What you've seen so far is the down payment, Kerry. Let's look back at two prior gold bull markets, the 1970 bull market, admittedly from a price-controlled base.
Yeah.
In US dollar terms, $35 to $850.
Mm-hmm.
A better example would be the 2000 bull market, 2000 to 2011. From $253 US dollars to $1,900 US dollars. So what is that? My arithmetic off the top.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
It's a six or seven-fold increase.
Yeah.
So people now look at the market and they say, well, Rick, this market started at 1,000. It's already at 1,800. Have I missed the boat?
Yeah.
Both in terms of duration, 10 years rather than 4, the answer is no. And dimension. 1,000 to 1,800 rather than 250 to 1,900? The answer is no. Am I saying that gold is going to go to 6,000 or 7,000 or 8,000? I'm not saying that, but to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me because I think that they are going to accelerate the pace of the deterioration of fiat currencies, yours and mine both.
Right now, if we go back to 1971, and we all know the story of Nixon taking the dollar off the gold standard, and that allows them to keep printing, aren't we living in a completely different, it's almost like a parallel universe where it doesn't really matter, Rick, it's not backed by anything, we'll just keep printing, the numbers will go up, a burger might be $50, in years to come, but no one will care because I'll just keep giving you more of the stuff, and maybe universal basic income will come in, and who cares?
That attitude was based, I think, on the period 1980 to 2020, which was, I believe, the most benign financial epoch that anybody has ever lived in. It reminds me of, and I forget who the quote was from, how do you go bankrupt? Well, in the beginning, slowly, very slowly. And then at the end, very rapidly. Right now, Australians aren't concerned
No.
about the credit quality of the Australian government. They aren't concerned about the deficits. They aren't concerned about what would happen if demand for Australian coal or Australian steel evaporated, but they should be. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think the possibility of it is high enough that people who don't insure against that contingency are either innumerate or just plain stupid.
Well, here in Australia, Rick, everyone's just focused on property. You know, everyone's just like, oh, the property market's going up and up and up and up and up.
I love that. I get that question from 40 or 50-year-old investors all the time. And I say to them in US dollar terms that traditionally the yield on the US 10-year Treasury has been 150 basis points positive. Mm-hmm. So if the CPI stated rate of inflation is 4.5% and you add 150 basis points on that, that means that if we had a free market interest rate, the kind of interest rate we had prior to 1990, that the US 10-year Treasury would be yielding 6%. Traditionally, the first mortgage rate is 100 to 150 basis points higher than the US 10-year Treasury, which means that in the US we'd have a 7.5% first mortgage rate. If we had a 7.5% first mortgage rate in the United States rather than a 2.75% mortgage rate in the United States, that would take care of the problem of expensive housing. If the cost of owning a house measured by the interest that you paid went up by 150 or 200%, the affordability of homes and hence their prices would have an interesting circumstance. Think what might happen in Kerry if the mortgage interest rates in Australia more than doubled. Think what that might do to housing affordability and hence housing demand.
Well, I've gone through that note in my head, but at the moment, what the Federal Reserve down here is saying, oh, no, don't worry, we're not going to touch interest rates for at least another 3 years. So
and it's interesting that we believe in their ability to sustain the fiction that we've believed. If they actually believe that quantitative easing is good for the economy, why do they charge tax, Kerry? Why don't they just print the money? If we have enough faith in the big thinkers in government that we believe that they can fine-tune the economy with quantitative easing, then there's no need for tax. We can just conjure up all the money we need. By the way, it's been tried before. There was a financial genius who I think should be Secretary of the Treasury in the United States. His name was Gideon Gono. He ran the Central Bank of Zimbabwe. They couldn't collect any tax because the only people who were making any money were government people, and they refused to pay the tax, so they just printed. They got pretty good at printing. In fact, they got so good at printing that they only put ink on one side of the bill, and they actually had an expiration date. So the logical extreme of the point of view that people are espousing now is simply that the big thinkers, meaning your government and my government, run the world. Yeah. That confidence in their efficacy is such that they don't have to tax people anymore. They can spend on whatever they want, and they can conjure up payment for that by the printing press. In fact, that's an economic experiment that's taken place before. Yep. The predecessor to Adolf Hitler in Weimar, Germany, tried it. Yep. Didn't work out so well. Argentina has tried it 2 or 3 times with predictable results.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.